from Littlefield Sports, and welcome to Original Joe's in downtown San Jose at 301 South 1st Street. Michael Spiro with you, alongside San Jose State head coach Mike MacIntyre. And coach, regular season road play in the books. You win your last 5 on the road and finish 2012 with a 5-1 road record.
Yes, it was a great finish there, and being like a typical coach, I wish it was 6-0 because we were right there on the cusp of doing that. But I tell you, the kids have played really well on the road, and we've had a lot of good people following us on the road too. It's been a lot of fun, and it's been exciting. And now we're at home for a good 2 home stands against 2 really good football teams, and our kids are excited about playing in Spartans Stadium and finish this season off correctly.
Well, for the first time since 1986, a San Jose State team has now won 5 in a row on the road. And looking back at the road victories, would you say the most difficult one to secure was at San Diego State, or would you go at Navy given the travel and everything else?
Wow. The dramatic game at San Diego State made it very, very fun. And as you can tell, they've had a really good year. They're going to probably win the Mountain West. They beat Boise State last week, I believe it was, or the week before. And then, Navy just lost since we beat them. They got on a roll there and started beating everybody, and barely lost last week, I think 42-41 or something to Troy. I think both of those wins were big wins for us, and they're all big, if you ask me, every one of them. And so we enjoyed it.
Well, you're in good company. San Jose State now one of 4 teams with 5 or more road victories this season. You joined Texas A&M. Obviously, they just took down Alabama, Louisiana Tech, nationally ranked team. You'll see them next week. And then Kent State out of the MAC, who's also having a good season. Your team seems to enjoy the challenge. We talked about it last week. They like the booze before the game. And I think even more than that, they like quieting the crowd there on the road as well.
Yeah, they do. They like quieting the crowd. We talk about that all the time. We want to quiet the crowd, and we want to just hear our section yelling. And I think the first real experience we had with that was Colorado State, when Matt Faulkner and Jabari Carr caught that ball. And then I tell you, when they really realized it was at Fresno, and the kids really loved that and enjoyed that moment. And I think everybody there did also, and I think that's carried over. And then when we played Stanford this year, that place was quiet. And all you could hear was our people, and we had them right there and just didn't pull it off. But our kids thrive on that and enjoy that. And a lot of times you go on the road and kids get distracted. Well, they know how to travel now. We have a very organized way that we do it, the way we meet, the way we do it. And when we went to D.C., we went a day early, and I was very excited that the athletic department paid for that and let our kids do that, such a long trip. But also to see Washington, D.C., and I think they really enjoyed that, and then got their minds back set and played really well. So they've enjoyed traveling, but they enjoy playing at home more than they do in traveling, I promise you that.
Well, and going back to the travel, though, this team, as you said, very focused, but they enjoy being around each other, and it's an opportunity for them to strengthen their bonds, and being with them at team dinners, just a lot of fun to be around the guys.
Yeah, they really do have great team camaraderie, and you hear that all the time, but this is probably this is the best team I've ever seen at this. And they really enjoy being around each other, and they can rib each other, and they pull for each other. If you were at the New Mexico State game, I don't know if you saw it on television as well as being there, but when we got everybody in the game for that last 4th quarter, there wasn't a soul sitting on the bench. They were all up cheering each other and making plays and enjoying the moment. And that shows you a group of guys that really care about each other and want everybody to be successful, and there's a great team attitude. And you don't always get that, and it's exciting to see.
A lot to go over tonight on the show. We'll look back at San Jose State's 47-7 win at New Mexico State from this past Saturday. San Jose State women's basketball head coach Tim Lacoste will join us. We'll also talk to Coach Mack about his years spent coaching in the NFL, and we will conclude tonight's show with a preview of this Saturday's matchup between San Jose State and BYU. We'll also take questions from the fans. If you'd like to submit your questions online, you can do so on Twitter at Michael Spiro. And be sure to join us next Wednesday at the downtown San Jose Original Joe's for our final show of the regular season. We record the Mike MacIntyre Show from 6 to 7 p.m. and you can always catch it on 1590 KLIV Wednesdays from 9 to 10 p.m. So, Coach, looking at the New Mexico State win, 47-7, the final score in Las Cruces. You improved your team's record to 8-2, now 4-1 in conference play, and it was a dominant first half for the Spartans. The halftime score, 37-0 San Jose State. Your thoughts on the start to the game?
Well, we started out fast and made some big plays, and the offense, defense, special teams all did their job, and we didn't have any miscues like we did the first quarter at Idaho to have to overcome. And I think that set the tempo for what we knew we needed to be ready in that part of it. And I felt like we were focused at Idaho. We just had a couple mistakes, but we overcame it. So it was exciting watching them do that. And I think that New Mexico State, they had played really well against Auburn, and it was 7-0 at Auburn the week before, and they played really well against Louisiana Tech at their place the last time. It was 7-0 Louisiana Tech. So when we jumped out on them, I think it shocked them, and then we just finished it off, which was exciting to see. On the first drive of the second half to go 75 yards, I believe it was, in 2 plays was a lot of fun.
Well, speaking of the fast start and the big plays in the first half, Dalian Eskridge, a 63-yard touchdown run.
Yeah, that was pretty to see.
Chandler Jones, a 70-yard touchdown reception. More of a short pass, and then once again, as we've always seen Chandler Jones do, takes off running.
Yeah, takes off running, and they can't catch him.
And then you get the big boy involved, Ina Leaina, a 58-yard touchdown catch and score for him. Benet Ben Wickery had a 37-yard fumble recovery for a touchdown, so it was just big play after big play there in the first half.
Right, it was, and then Austin Lopez hit a big field goal in that strong wind, to get the game started, which was a big kick.
Well, we were nervous. We had Jeff Bowe interview him for the pregame piece because you can't avoid him. He's perfect on the season, but at the same time, Jeff said to me, it's kind of like interviewing a pitcher in the middle of a perfect game. We basically played the pregame interview, and then after that said, we're not going to really talk about him the rest of the game. He did knock down the field goal to stay perfect on the season, so we're glad we got it all out of the way.
Exactly right. I'm glad you didn't jinx him. Nobody came after you.
You're listening to the Mike MacIntyre Show here on KLIV. Coach, looking at the numbers, total yards 504 to 220 favoring San Jose State. San Jose State with 301 through the air, 203 on the ground. Nice to mix it up and nice to have that balance.
Yeah, you always want the balance when you can have it, and we were able to do both and kept them on their heels, and it was exciting to watch. The runs, we made some great runs, there's some great blocks, and there were some big time catches, which was a lot of fun. The play to Ryan Otten was a beautiful play. He juked out the safety, and David Fales laid it out there. They made it look so easy. It's not that easy, but they sure did make it look easy.
Well, it was nice to see the running game. 35 rushing plays, 6 yards a carry in the game, and then, of course, in turnovers, you dominate there. Just 1 turnover on San Jose State, 4 on New Mexico State. Once again, you lead time of possession as well.
Right. We're very efficient on offense, and on defense, we're playing really well. I think right now, as stats go in the country, we're ranked, I believe it is 31st in the country in scoring offense, 25th in scoring defense. I think we're 36th in total offense, and we're number 21 in the nation in total defense. So, our team is playing really, really well. We're playing good on special teams. We've got to keep it up with a really, really good football team coming in here, a bunch of big guys that can run.
You listen to the Mike MacIntyre Show here on 1590 KLIV. And speaking of the upcoming game, San Jose State back home this Saturday, taking on the Cougars of BYU. Kickoff is set for 7:30 p.m. with a 7 p.m. Spartan pregame show, and it's all right here on the Spartan Sports Network's flagship station, 1590 KLIV. Coach, we got to talk about your quarterback, your junior quarterback, David Fales, in the game. 12 of 18 against New Mexico State, 276 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. How is it having the most accurate passer in America as your quarterback? 72.4% completion percentage. Number 1 in the country.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's fun to watch on the sidelines. It's fun to watch those receivers catch it and him get them to different guys. He's just a phenomenal young man. The thing that amazes me about him is just his leadership qualities that the people don't see all the time. And he has no ego. He's done all this. He has no ego. He deflects everything. He works extremely hard. I just left the office a little while ago, and he's back up there watching tape, looking at things. Came to my office and talked to me for a few minutes, and we were talking about the game. And I said I go to a radio show, and he's going to watch tape. And just really a phenomenal young man, and does well in school and everything. So he's definitely a pleasure to have. He really is.
Well, he's rewriting the history books here.
Yep.
His first year at San Jose State, of course, a junior as he transferred in. He's currently 4th on San Jose State's list of single-season passing yards leaders. He needs 135 more passing yards to pass up Mike Perez for first place, and he's currently at 3,126 passing yards on the season. 36 completions away from first place for single-season pass completions. He's sitting at 244. He's tied for the top spot in single-season touchdown passes with 25, tied with Steve Clarkson. So we expect him to be all alone once Saturday is in the books, and then he should also end the season first in total offense.
Yes, I think he'll break every record, and it's fun to watch it happen. I'll tell you, Brian Lindgren and the offensive staff has done a phenomenal job, and our offense they're fun to watch. They execute well, and they're really doing a great job. So, heads off to David Fales and what he's done. It's been very impressive.
Well, before we wrap up the segment, Coach, I want to touch on some other individual performances from the New Mexico State game. Dalian Eskridge, just 6 carries, but 96 yards and the big touchdown run, of course. I'm sure he was pleased with a 16 yards per carry average.
He was very pleased, and it was fun watching him run. The kids started laughing when we watched the highlight tape on Sunday. We always picked the big plays and watched it.
What did he do wrong?
Well, he kind of kicked up his leg, there about the 10-yard line, and I was dying laughing. I was telling him, I'm watching on the sidelines and on the headsets. I go, did he blow out his hamstring? Is he going to get in the end zone? And he did, and it was a lot of fun to watch that run. It really was. He kind of kicked his head back, and here he went.
Probably thinking, I scored 63-yard touchdown run. You guys are making fun of him?
Yeah, we were ribbing him a little bit.
Well, Chandler Jones finished the day with 5 catches for 101 yards and 2 scores. Your senior tight end, Ryan Otten, a nice 36-yard touchdown score. He's now one of 8 semifinalists for the John Mackey Award. We will know the finalists early next week. That will be announced on Monday.
Right. Yeah, they're both phenomenal players. Chandler he's great at run after the catch, and does a great job of that. I think he averaged a touchdown like every 4 times he touches it, so we need to get it to him about 20 times a game. Have 5 touchdowns, right? 25 times a game, that is. So, or 20 times, whatever. But we'll work it out. We'll get him the ball more. And then Ryan Otten's just a great big target, doing a great job. And sometimes they take him away. Sometimes they got a linebacker right underneath him and a safety right on top of him. And when they do that, that opens up one-on-one shots outside that we've been able to hit. And David's so good at seeing all that. And then sometimes they'll drop back underneath him, and we can hit the backs underneath. But we're finding ways to get him the ball, and he's really a great player.
Well, looking at your defense here, I kind of knew this was going to happen during the game, unless something crazy went on in another game, something you could not control. No surprise on Monday that defensive back Benet Ben Wickery was once again, for the second time this season, named WAC Defensive Player of the Week. In the game, 6 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, an interception, and then again that fumble recovery for a touchdown.
Yeah, Benet's playing super football. We play him at 2 positions. We play him at corner and nickelback, and he's doing really well. It's been really exciting to watch his maturation process, and he has a knack of being around the ball, and our kids are amazed about it too. How's Benet always around the ball? And he just is. And we play him all over the place, so that helps him be out there more. But he has really a knack for finding the football.
Well, Jeff Bowe caught up with him after practice today, so he'll be our pregame player guest for Saturday's pregame show if you want to listen into that. And well, nice to see the youth getting involved. Freshman quarterback Jimmy Pruitt, a guy that's impressed us throughout the season. He led the team with 8 tackles, 7 of which were solo.
Yeah, Jimmy is going to be a great player, and he keeps working and keeps doing what he's supposed to do. I'm telling you, the sky's the limit. He's big, he's athletic, he's smart. I'm really excited about what Jimmy can do, and he's playing really well as a true freshman. And he's not a freshman anymore. He's played 10 games. That used to be the end of the season. A few years back, didn't it? Now we play 12.
Yeah.
So he is now starting on the sophomore campaign, I would say.
Well, you mentioned Dalian Eskridge, poking fun at him as he was scoring the big touchdown run. Now, you mixed it up with personnel, obviously, late in this game. You were pitching the shutout, but you did mix it up, get some other guys involved, which is always nice to do. Unable to get the shutout as they did score very we in the game. What was going on after the game? Were guys giving the second-string guys a hard time, or what was going on in the film session there?
No, it was fun getting everybody in the football game, and some of the guys we got in there at the end hadn't been able to practice as much with the second-team unit. Some of those guys were even third-team guys that play a lot of different special teams, a lot of different roles. It was really exciting to get all those guys in the game, get them some more experience. We've been able to do that a couple times this year. That really helps you, because when they eventually play next year, or if someone gets hurt as this year goes along, that experience really helps them out.
Yeah, the experience obviously vital. You give up a touchdown, okay, whatever, you win by 40 points in the game, but it's also a nice reward for the guys. They're working really hard in practice.
It's a really good reward to get them out there and let them play. And it's also good to take some hits off of some of the guys that had been playing quite a bit this year, and kind of rest them a little bit, so to speak.
Well, we're going to take a quick break here. When we return, we'll be joined by San Jose State women's basketball head coach Tim LaCoste. You're listening to the Mike MacIntyre Show on 1590 KLRG. MacIntyre Show on 1590 KLIV with Original Joe's in downtown San Jose. San Jose State brings in BYU this Saturday. The Spartan pregame show begins at 7 p.m. and kickoff is scheduled for 7:30 p.m. You can catch it all right here on 1590 KLIV. Michael Spear with you. Now back with Coach MacIntyre. Coach Mac just had Coach Lacoste on the program from the women's basketball program, and I understand you were a part of the interview process when he was interviewing for the San Jose State job, and I know early on for him, he enjoyed what you were telling him about San Jose State, how the success here is just contagious, and as the football program is on the rise, we just heard him say how the women's basketball program is also doing the same thing.
Yeah, Tim's done a phenomenal job with the women's program, and I love his attitude and his charisma, and yeah, I really enjoyed meeting with him on his interview process. And I told Tom Bowen when he left, if he could get him, he better get him. And so he's done a great job. And he also helps us, too. I mean, he's known all over the state. And anytime you get into the high schools, and he's recruiting a girl at a high school, there's also football players there, too. And, anytime that our name is out there and doing well, and we're in schools, no matter what, if it's a football program, if it's a baseball program, if it's a basketball program, that's important for us. And we're getting all over the state, and that's a big deal for all the programs, but it also trickles down to everything and with us too. So we're excited about everybody being successful, and I know we'll have a great year.
Well, as we transition back into football here in this segment, I want to go back to your NFL coaching days and look at how all of that helped you out and helped you prepare for where you are now at San Jose State. But before we get into...
My two teams aren't doing very well.
You're no longer with them, and now they're not doing so well. But San Jose State, all the people here in San Jose, certainly happy. Before we get into the NFL coaching experience, you started your playing career at Vanderbilt, wrapped it up as a defensive back at Georgia Tech. Something that's interesting to note is you earned your undergraduate degree in business management from Georgia Tech, but then went to a rival program in Georgia. You were a graduate assistant there, but it also allowed you to earn your master's in sports management from Georgia. So is that something a lot of potential coaches, guys that want to get into coaching, are going to get their masters and being an assistant?
Yeah, there's a couple different ways to try to break in, and basically the best way to break in coaching is to go be a graduate assistant somewhere. And a graduate assistant, you truly realize if you want to be a coach or not. You're going to school, you put in ultimate hours, and you got to do every little detail, all the tough jobs, and so it teaches you the ins and outs of the programs. It teaches you how to do things, and it's an invaluable learning tool. And so it's something you have to put your time in. And then you went to a couple small schools and just kept working our way up, and now, and I think all of that built the foundation for me to be able to have a chance to be successful here. Wasn't handled a silver spoon by any stretch of the imagination, and my wife's moved a bunch, and so we've paid the price, and we're really enjoying it here.
Well, as you were paving your way, getting to your first NFL coaching job with the Dallas Cowboys, you began there as a secondary coach and also coaching the safeties. Now you played on this defensive side of the football as a player. Is that why I assume you were leaning towards the defensive side as a coach initially?
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, it probably was. In high school, I was a quarterback and point guard, and ran the 100 meters and all that stuff. And then I went to college, and there's not many 5'10.5" guys that play quarterback unless you go to Navy, Army, Air Force, and you're running the option. And I had some schools where they did recruit me for those, but I wanted to play in the SEC, and I thought Vanderbilt was a great place, and my dad was the head coach there at the time, and so I moved to DB, and I returned punts and kicks and played safety. And so I really enjoyed my time there.
And you liked the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, I liked
forced to start it all.
Yeah, I liked that. And then went to Georgia Tech, and then I went to the University of Georgia. It's funny, I was working as a logistics manager for Mike Rose Foods in Nashville, Tennessee. I didn't know if I wanted to coach or not when I first got out of college, and so I was putting my degree to work, and it was going well. And then I get a phone call from a friend of mine who worked on the staff there. And so they had a graduate assistant job opening. They knew I had good grades. They knew I could get to school. And so I decided to go to Georgia and work for Ray Goff there for 2 years and got my master's, and then went to Davidson. And I worked on the defensive side of the ball as a GA. That's kind of where the opening was. So that's kind of, maybe if I would have gone on the offensive side, I would have gravitated to offense because they would have had contacts. And so that's how that worked.
Well, 2003, you start with the Dallas Cowboys as the secondary coach and coaching the safeties as well. Funny story, though, going back to how it all started. You get a call from Bill Parcells. However, you thought it was a prank call.
Yeah, I did. I honestly did. I was coming back from the coaches convention in New Orleans, Louisiana. I was driving through Slidell, Louisiana, if you can imagine where that is, and my phone didn't work. You know, it didn't have reception, so up pops a message. So I pull off at a truck stop and go in, look at it, and pull it up, and I have a message on there. And I thought for sure it was Buddy Alexander, my best friend from high school. And so I called him. I said, "Buddy, what are you doing?" He said, "That wasn't me." I said, "Uh-oh." So
it's a good thing you didn't call the other number back and tell him to shut up and hang up the phone.
So I called the number back. I called back because he left the number on the thing. And you know, I had one of those old cell phones at that time, and not everything popped up on it, I don't think. And so I called him back, and Coach Parcells answered, and I was like, I could hardly talk. And he said he was at a dinner right then, and he would call me back later. And so the funniest thing is, I picked up after I hung up. I called my wife. I said, "Tricia, Bill Parcells called me about an interview at Dallas." She goes, "Bill Parcells called you?" You know, and I said, "Yeah, I can't believe it either." So one thing led to the other, and so the next day I went and called Coach Cutcliffe, and he was the head coach at Ole Miss, a great friend of mine. He gave me a great opportunity there, and I pulled him over to the side and said, "Hey, Coach, you know, I don't want to screw anything up here, you know, but I had a phone call last night from Bill Parcells about coming to interview at Dallas," and he goes, "Bill Parcells called you?" So I said, "Oh," and he said, "But you better go take that interview if you can." So one thing led to another, and got the job. And
what was the interview with him like?
Pretty intimidating when I first walked in. And he did a great job with me. You know, they had 4 other people that interviewed for my same position, and I was the last one to come in, and was able to get the job. So it was a really big deal, and I really enjoyed my time there. And Bill was great to me, and Jerry Jones was phenomenal, and that's where I got to be great friends with Jim Jeffcoat, who I hired here. We worked together there for 2 years, and so it was a great experience. It really was.
Well, now you're kind of on the other side of interviews. Now you get to conduct your own when you're looking for a new assistant coach. How would you describe how you go about the whole process?
Wow, that's interesting. Well, I go about the process by, first of all, I find individuals that I think would fit the position they're at, the type of person I want, the type of charisma, that love kids and want to work with kids, and then I go through the process of meeting them. And sometimes it's the first person you meet, it's a no-brainer, and sometimes you have to go through 4 or 5 people and until you find the right fit. And it doesn't always mean that guy's not a good coach or not. It's just you need a certain fit for different positions. And you know, you got 9 spots, that's all you have. And so there's a lot of different scenarios that go into it. It's not just coaching in college football. It's relationships, it's recruiting. There's a lot of different details. So that's a tough process. And you know, I've interviewed guys before and didn't give them the job, and then a job came open later on, and I would call them and say, "Hey, come on," and they did, and it worked. It's always worked out well at another position. I got a job like that one time. I got turned down the first time, and then like a month later, another guy left me and hired me. So interesting.
When you were in Dallas, twice you were able to go to the NFL playoffs.
Right.
How was that experience for you?
It was a great experience. You know, it's a do-or-die situation, and you know, we lost both of them, unfortunately, our first playoff round. They're electric, and you know, I was my last game at Dallas was the infamous Tony Romo dropping the ball on the. You know, we're going to kick a 2-yard field goal to win the game, and he drops it. And the rest is history, and he gets to do a Tostitos commercial off of that. So the rest of us got to pack our bags and leave. So you know, it's just the way it works. And then I went to the New York Jets, which was a really good experience. But it was a lot colder in New York than Dallas, I can promise you that.
Yeah, following your time in Dallas, then one season with the Jets, you've been able to coach some major talent: Roy Williams, Darren Woodson, Terrence Newman. You've had some good tools to work with. How about toughest quarterback for you to prepare for in the NFL?
Wow. Darrelle Revis, did you say him?
No.
That's who we drafted. That was my one thing I got to do there. I went around and interviewed 6 DBs. We were going to draft one in the first round, and I thought Darrelle Revis was the best. And we ended up moving up spots and taking him. And when you recommend somebody and they move up spots, the owner looks at you sideways if you can't play. Well, he's ended up being pretty good, so I was excited about that. But oh shoot, I tell you, there was a lot of them that were hard to prepare for. Of course, Tom Brady, played against him. Of course, our man Manning, played against him. Of course, I played against Eli, and I knew Eli really well.
Yeah.
And I know Peyton really well. But I tell you, the guy that was pretty amazing was Ben Roethlisberger, because we played against him right in his prime. There was 2 years there where he would scramble around and everybody be hanging off of him, and he's winning Super Bowls. He was really interesting he wasn't like the rest of the guys. He just kind of ran around and made plays. He was kind of like in the backyard, which is really unusual to be able to do at that level, but he did it. But all of those guys, I mean, each week they're all really, really good. Played against Jeff Garcia a couple times. Once in Detroit, the next year he's at Cleveland, the next year he's somewhere else. We must have played against him 3 different places. I always tease him about it when I talk to him about it.
Well, and it's interesting, you were mentioning how things kind of tie back together. You didn't get a job, but maybe it comes open down the road. And when you're with the Cowboys, traveling out here to play the Niners and the Raiders, you would actually have practice over at Spartans.
Yeah, we practiced at San Jose State, and we stayed there for a week and practiced on the practice fields and worked out in the weight room and saw everything. So when I came out on my interview, I had seen it all already. I hadn't seen the campus, and it was interesting. Every time I come here to OJ's, it's the first meal I ever ate here in San Jose. And so I'll never forget, I came in that one night and had a meal here. I kind of met Tom for a minute. I was going to have all the interview stuff the next day because it was such a long flight.
Sure.
And so I just got up and next morning real early, I got up and just walked down and walked the campus all by myself, just kind of looked around and got a feel for everything and kind of asked kids places to go and try to talk to them and try to get a feel for it. And I really fell in love with the place. It was really neat, and all the kids were nice. And even some of the professors were nice to me. I guess before they knew I was a football coach, but and so it was a good deal.
Well, we're certainly glad to have you here at San Jose State, but it's interesting to note also that you think you might have just stayed put in the NFL had David Cutcliffe not came calling and asked you to be his defensive coordinator at Duke, and then one thing leads to another. Now you're the head coach here at San Jose State.
Yeah, that's right. I called when I went to the NFL kind of like getting my doctorate in football. That's all you do. And it was a great learning experience for me. And then I was fine right there. And then David calls me and says he's going to go to Duke, and would I like to be the defensive coordinator there? At the time Duke wasn't very good. They've had a hard time, but I believed in David. I knew what they were doing, and so I went home and talked to Tricia. And she said that she enjoyed visiting.
At least you didn't get David Cutcliffe called you.
Yeah,
at least you didn't get that.
They're familiar. And so we took a leap of faith, so to speak, and went there. And it worked out great. We had 2 really good years for Duke and for our defense there, and some of the best years they've ever had. And then this opportunity came calling because of that, and because of my pro experience and everything, and kind of fit the resume I think that Tom was looking for at the time. And he had told me he wanted someone that had been a BCS coordinator, someone that had pro experience, someone that had worked at smaller schools that didn't have big budgets. And my whole career, you have all those different. So that was something that he was looking for, and I think it worked out really well.
All right, Coach, one final break. We'll be back here to wrap it up with the preview of San Jose State and BYU. You're listening to the Mike MacIntyre Show on 1590 KLIV. Welcome back to the Mike MacIntyre Show. This Saturday at 7:30 p.m., the Spartans play host to BYU. The Spartan pregame show starts at 7 p.m. You can catch all of the action right here on 1590 KLIV. Michael Spiro, Coach Mike MacIntyre with you. Coach, your team 8-2, 4-1 in conference play. Final non-con game of the season, playing host to BYU, an independent. They're 6-4. They've accepted an invitation to play in the Poinsettia Bowl next month down in San Diego. But say 6-4, they're one of the better 6-4 teams in the nation. Wins over Washington State, Weber State, Hawaii, Utah State. And I know you'll have some extra motivation. They got a win over Georgia Tech as well. Most recently, they beat Idaho. They beat the Vandals 52-13 last week at home. And then looking at their losses, lost by a field goal to Utah, by 1 to Boise State. They did lose 42-24 to Oregon State, but that was tied up going into the 4th quarter. And then their other loss by a field goal at then number 5 Notre Dame, obviously a team in the hunt for the national championship this season. So 6-4, but I guess you could say maybe a little bit better than 6-4.
Oh yeah, they're a very good football team, and you'll see them when they walk out on the field. They're big, and they're the thing that they're better on defense than they have been in the past because they're big and fast. And I've been very, very impressed with them. Offensively, they're kind of clicking right now. I think in the last 2 games they've scored like 52 and 40 something, and you know, watching them beat up on my alma mater was rough. The coaches are dying. I'm sitting there getting mad, and I said, "Dang, come at Georgia Tech," and I'm like, "What are they doing?" And you know, your juices start flowing even more when you're watching them beat up on your alma mater. So, and then Georgia Tech's been a good football program, and I think they scored 68 points the next week against North Carolina, and they can only score 7 points against BYU. So they're beast on defense. They really are. And then their quarterback, Riley Nelson, can really make plays and scrambles around. They got a running back, number 21, Jamal, from down in Summit in the Empire here in the LA area. He's really fast and quick. And their receivers, you won't believe how tall their receivers are. I mean, they're all 6'4" or taller. And they got one little guy, but the rest of them are all really tall. So they're going to be a very, very tough test for us. Our kids are excited about playing the game. They like the way we played well against them last year. Didn't start out very well. I think that we thought, well, they were BYU. And then in the second half, we realized, boy, we can play with these guys. And so we need to come out of the chute fast and hard. It's going to be a hard, tough, fought contest. And our kids are really looking forward to it, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, as you mentioned, they got that leadership with their senior quarterback, Riley Nelson. He guides the offense, a guy that can make plays. He can run, he can throw. I know he likes throwing to his wide receiver, Cody Hoffman. 65 catches on the year to go along with 6 receiving touchdowns. You mentioned the running game, and freshman running back Jamal Williams, 620 rushing yards. He also has 10 touchdowns on the ground this season, and he's averaging 5 yards per carry. They've got an athletic quarterback. How much option offense should we expect to see from him?
They'll run just a little bit of option, and mainly it's just a little bit of speed option, and they'll run a shovel pass option where they're running, and he can either pitch it to the back here or pitch it underneath to the back. And you know, they're running him some, and they might run him some more, but they haven't run him as much lately because I think they're scared of injury with him because the other quarterback went down. The backup behind them is a walk-on, so I don't know if they'll run him that much, but he's been making a lot of plays. And the good thing that he can do is he can keep the play alive with his feet. If it breaks down, he'll pull it down and scramble and try to get a first down. That's what he does a lot on third down. So we've really got to keep him in the pocket, get him down, and but it's easier to say than do. But we're working on it hard.
You listen to the Mike MacIntyre Show here on KLIV. Back to their defense, Coach. 7th in the nation in points against, just 14 points per game against BYU's defense. Big, strong bunch of guys on that side of the football. Linebacker Brandon Ogletree, 78 tackles on the season. And I know earlier in the week you mentioned that their defense kind of similar to what we saw in week 1 at Stanford.
Yeah, I think they are very similar to Stanford's defense. They might be a little bit faster than Stanford's defense on the back end, but up front they're big and athletic and have 2 really big, good pass rushers, kind of like Stanford did. So, you know, we had our moments at Stanford. If we would have caught a couple other balls, we would have had great moments. And that's the only game all year that we didn't catch the ball. And that's the only game I can remember those kids not catching it consistently. And I knew they'd bounce back, and they have. And I know they'll have a great day Saturday.
Well, Coach, let's take a question from the fan base here before we wrap up the show. This one from Adam Brown in San Francisco, and it's actually something we talked about earlier in the show, but a lot of hype around this game, nationally televised game, and also next week on national TV as well. He asks, can you comment on your team's level of focus this week?
Oh, they're extremely focused. They've been focused every week. But the heightened awareness of this game, everywhere they go, everywhere they turn, people are talking about it, being on national television. But our kids have really practiced hard all year, really focused hard all year. And, you know, as I told them, as we got better and better, now teams will always, quote, bring their focused A game. So we always have to come with our focused A game. And you want to get to the point where you're always the hunted, not you're always being the one that's trying to hunt them. And hopefully we're going to get to that point, and I believe we definitely will. I believe we're on our way. And, you know, if we get this one Saturday, it would be a great feather in our hat and a great deal for the university, for the city of San Jose, and especially for those young men in that locker room and all our fans.
Well, Coach, I know it's good to be back home. The city is definitely excited. Best of luck against BYU, and go get them on Saturday.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, and that's the Coach MacIntyre, general manager of Spartans Sports Properties for Cinnamon and Jeff Bowe. I'm Michael Spiro. So long.